Good day, good day. This is Charles with the Exodus Logistics Learning Center, America's #1 dispatcher and freight broker training. Today is Sunday, the 5th of January. Happy New Year, by the way. Hopefully you guys are getting 2025 in order for yourselves and your businesses and your families and things like that. Uh, let's see, Anthony in Ontario. How you doing, Ontario? I see you, Anthony. Can you unmute yourself on the
Good morning.
morning? How are you? And you're a new student, right?
Yes, sir.
And then Acarivis Logistics, Anthony. Make sure he unmute himself if he can. What's been going on with you, Mr. Ontario?
Nothing much, man. Just trying to get this dispatching service up and rolling.
What brought you into this area of transportation or logistics, the dispatching side? What brought you into this? If you don't mind me asking.
I seen, that it's I don't know if it's a billion, $1 trillion company, so I just want to get a little small piece of the pie.
So the logistics industry, transportation industry is close to a trillion, almost 800, 900 billion. That's across the whole ecosystem of it, which is trucking, brokering, warehousing, every aspect of it. So um, you're in a you're in the billion-dollar space, which or a part of the billion-dollar space, which is the dispatching piece where you help the truck drivers find the loads, and you get a percentage of that. So yeah. So you're just getting started forming have you started your company yet?
Yeah, I pretty much have everything. Now I'm trying to get the dispatching side as far as learning my craft and seeing
Okay.
what kind of equipment types I want to dispatch for, and so on and so on.
Okay. What's the name of your company? Have you formulated? Is it
It's the
LLC?
LLC.
What's the name of it, if you don't mind?
O's Top Notch Dispatching.
O's Top Notch. So now, are you only going to be? I ask this question a lot. Are you going? What's up, Anthony? How you doing?
Hey, how you doing, man?
All right. I ask this question a lot. Are you going to be just dispatching, or are you going to scale and pivot over into like trucking or brokering or anything else, or are you just going to be dispatching?
At least as of right now, just dispatching.
Okay. And the reason I asked that is because of the name.
Gotcha.
You know, you have the name just dispatching in it, but if you switch over to trucking or something else, then you would want to consider putting a logistics universal name in it, to kind of keep you, um, updated.
Gotcha.
You wouldn't have to circle back and change your name from dispatching to logistics. I often tell people that because, the naming piece is important. I mean, it doesn't seem like it because it's just, it's just a name. Well, in some cases, it kind of means a lot.
Yeah.
So, and you want to make sure that you're good. Lexi, I see a Lexi on here. And Shanta, hey Shanta. Shanta, I've been trying to get a hold of you, I believe. Can you unmute yourself? Let me see. Shanta. Shanta. Okay.
Good
And then Malay.
morning.
Good morning. I think Petra, one of our students was trying to get a hold of you. You're the one with the access to like I think box truck loads or some kind of resource that you were talking about. I think you and I.
Yeah, me and Petra talked. We talked a long time.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure.
No,
Yeah,
I
we
had
talked. I think
lost
we.
your. I'm sorry. This is Petra. I had lost your number, Shonda. So, and I had asked him to try to reach out to you again for me because I
Oh, I
couldn't
got your
find the
number.
number.
I'll send you a text.
Okay, baby. Thank you.
No problem.
All right, so Shanta, are you in the box truck space or?
Yeah, yeah, box trucks. I haven't dealt with any other in any other line but box trucks.
Are you consistent with it? Like, do you have a resource that you like Select This or My Virtual Fleet that you're using, or is it just strictly the load boards?
You remember we talked about my software with the low board in what I had invested in last year with another logistics company. So it's a logistics software that included the load boards. And I haven't forgot about you because you did ask me to reach out, but when I reached out to them, they responded but never reached back out to me. So I'm still kind of, but we'll talk. We'll talk. I got something else in mind. I wanna talk to you about. So yeah, I mean it probably can still work out either way because what you were asking me, yes, they will. You can utilize it for like you're using the load boards in your system, so your students will have access to it. That is correct. You will have access to, like one email. Anybody can log in with the access that you're giving us through the program. So yeah,
Right, or
we'll
like a
talk.
one, like a single sign-on, one user license.
Single sign on, but yep, you'll be able to use it in your system.
Okay. And then, cause I gotta look you up, Shanta, and then because I don't think I have your information directly in my phone, but I know I have it in the spreadsheet. I don't know what year you enrolled.
It was last year. I think my 90 days will be up in like 2 days. I'm about to renew my subscription. So haven't
Okay.
been that long, but yeah. I'll reach out though. I'll reach out. I have your
Please,
number.
please, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Where are you located? Are you in what state are you in?
I'm in Alabama.
Okay. All right.
Mm-hmm.
No problem. Okay, so we got a couple of new people in here too as well. I know Ontario, but Anthony, are you new?
Um, Fairly new, yes.
Okay. How's it going? Oh, see, you got your splash screen in the background there. How was it pronounced? Acrivis or Crevis?
Acrivis.
Acrivis. Is that a special meaning to that word or
Um, it means precise, basically.
okay, so precise logistics. All right. Well, that's for a dispatcher, that'd be great. You want to be
Right,
precise. You want to
right.
find the right. That's a good quality trait to have. So, where are you in your dispatching journey, if you don't mind me asking?
So far, I've had a couple callbacks. I've sent out a couple of dispatch agreements. Haven't really gotten any, you know, nobody come back and sign on and things of that nature. But I'm still in here fighting.
So, so this is 2025, new year. So we want to focus on improving ourselves and not proving ourselves, right? So, well,
Right.
that's the theme that I'm going by now. Some people can latch on, some people can, I don't know. So, Lexi, I see Lexi's unmuted. Lexi.
Oh, sorry, this is Lawal. Just I think I signed up from my phone. That's why it's showing up as Lexi.
Okay, no worries, Lowell. I got you. All right. Um, so with dispatching, as always, we again we recommend the three major equipment types. Remember what those are, guys? Anyone uh tell me what those are? The three major equipment types that we
The 53 footers, the reefer 53, and
okay.
the flatbeds.
Okay. So the drive in,
Hmm.
three major equipment types in our portal, module one, right? The 53-foot drive ins, the 53-foot reefer or refrigerated trailer type equipment, and then the 48 or 53-foot flatbeds. So I'm not sure how far Ontario you've gotten in the studies of the equipment types, but there's a reason we suggest these starting out for new dispatch companies. We don't say not to consider other equipment types, like for example with Shanta and Petra, the box trucks. We don't say don't reject them, but we're saying that the larger equipment types they're easier to morning Jennifer, they're easier to find loads for They're out here on the roads the most, and you can find loads for them, and they pay the better rates because they're larger equipment types. So you can put more freight or more commodities or more pallets on their trailers. And so it kind of makes sense from a new dispatcher's perspective. That's the reason why we say that. So, all right. So, but you got other specialty equipment types. You have um, the box trucks, like we've been talking about. These are niches, though. The box trucks, the sprinter vans, the cargo vans, and the hot shots, which are right here. Right. So they're out here. Coincidentally, too, we're monitoring the um the potential strike again at the ports. Remember before there was a 3-day strike with the ILA, which is the International Longshoremen's Association, and the USMX, the United States Maritime Alliance. They were um, in negotiations for, contract raises and things like that, and to not have automation as much at the ports because that will eliminate the jobs from the regular longshoremen who offload the containers from the vessels, the ship lines. So I'm thinking it's next week. I want to say this week, but I believe it's next week that they're going to come to head again. And if they haven't come to an agreement again, the ILA and the USMX are going to strike. Now, hopefully, I'm fearing that it's going to be longer than 3 days. And you saw what happened when it was 3 days. It was kind of like chaos. So the ports are very important because in the United States in the past decade or even two, we've been dealing with our commerce from an international. We've been importing a lot of our goods into the country as opposed to manufacturing them domestically, right? Because a lot of the manufacturers, if you notice, I don't know if you've noticed, but a lot of the domestic companies have been shutting down and outsourcing their labor overseas at a cheaper rate. And a lot of businesses, you've seen these stores. And matter of fact, you've seen stores closing down now. Party City, Big Lots, all these different stores are closing down. They're outsourcing their work overseas. And we are relying on imported goods now from those manufacturers overseas to come into the country. Well, they have to come in and some port, either a ocean port, a rail port, or an air port. So those are some of the things. So how does this affect dispatchers? Well, we have an indirect effect with this because we are the ones who are trying to provide loads for our carriers. And then we're doing that because we're relying on loads coming from the brokers. Well, the brokers are relying on the loads coming from their customers, the shippers. So it's like a snowball effect. It's like a trickle down effect, right? We are involved in that indirectly because we're involved indirectly because we have a direct relationship with our truck drivers that we're dispatching for. They have a direct relationship with the brokers who they're getting the freight from, which has a direct relationship with the shippers who are getting the shipments into the country being imported at the ports. So it would be wise, even for dispatchers, even though it may seem that we are low on a totem pole on the list, it'll still be wise to kind of be aware of certain things that's going on in your industry. You're in transportation, so it would be a good idea to kind of stay on top of that while you are learning how to do your job, right? How to be a dispatcher. So just a little tidbit for you, a little information. But what will help you do that is to tune into a lot of periodicals and a lot of publications that talk about it. You know, like the different publications that we have. We talk about transport topics. What's the other one? Transport topics. Sonar, freight waves. Freight waves is a good one that talks about it. Sonar that keeps track of what's going on actively currently in transportation from a logistics standpoint. And there are others, right? But back to the point of the dispatching piece, start out, especially new dispatchers coming in, focus on the major equipment types to try to maximize your income. Focus on the major equipment types, focus on targeting those carriers in your location who drive these equipment types focus on tightening up your contract, your dispatcher packet, right? The dispatcher packet contains 3 documents, right? So at some point, I want to expect you guys. I know we're all our own businesses, but at some point, I would want you to expect you guys to actually know this by heart. You know what I'm saying? So the documents that make up the dispatch packet, the 3 major equipment types, because we talk about it a lot. So I want to expect you guys to know that. So, oh, LaDonna's having trouble getting in. It's a snowstorm over the Missouri area, so she's having a hard time getting in. So I kind of figured that's why I wasn't going to stay too long today, because I know it's bad weather out there in the Midwest. Hopefully you guys are safe, because we got a little bit of snow here, and it kind of went down like in the northern part of Virginia. It hasn't reached this area specifically, but there was a severe snowstorm over in the Midwest Missouri area. She's texting me now saying she can't even get in. She's trying to get in, and it's not recognizing her. So I'll let her know it's okay, because we always record, so she can go back and catch the recording. But at any rate, my point in 2025 is make sure that your infrastructure is tight. So the question for new dispatchers is, well, what does my infrastructure as a dispatch business consist of? So I would want you guys tell me that. As a business owner, as a dispatch service, what do you think your business infrastructure should be as a dispatcher? And anybody can tell me. And I would assume that you guys would, when you hear the responses, you would take note of it, take some notes. What does your dispatch service infrastructure look like? And what does that even mean? What does that mean? What is my dispatch? What is a dispatch infrastructure? What do I need to do behind the scenes in order for my dispatch service to run smoothly? That's your infrastructure. Okay. I do it on a larger scale. I do it from a business standpoint. I do it from the car wash that we just acquired. I do it from the logistics training that we just acquired. I do it for the trucking with my partner. I do it for the freight brokerage with my partner. So what does an infrastructure consist of? Can anyone chime in and give me their input on that? What should your infrastructure as a dispatch service consist of? How to secure your driver through a contract. Very good. That's Jennifer. She just typed it in the chat. I guess she couldn't unmute herself. Do I see Jennifer? There she is. Okay, yeah. So how to secure your driver through a contract. Well, how's that done? Let me bring up the whiteboard real quick. Let me share whiteboard. And it's my first time using it in 2025. So let's make sure that everything is good. Can you guys see the whiteboard come on the screen? Okay. That's good. So, infrastructure. Okay. Well, I got to spell infrastructure correctly first. Infrastructure. There we go. All right. I must have been asleep in spelling class when I was in elementary school, apparently. But the teacher woke me up with the ruler. You know how you get smacked on the wrist? Wake up. So, so infrastructure, well, your contracts. Okay. Well, even before that, there should be your infrastructure. Of course, you want to, okay, this is assuming after you got your business established, an LLC, EIN, and the business name, right? You are legal in whatever state you're in. Okay. So, because each state requires forming a business is different in each state. I'll say it like that. Their requirements are a little bit different. Mostly similar, but there's some differences. Okay. So your contracts. So your contract or contracts, what we call is the dispatch or dispatcher packet, right? And it contains And I'm going to be updating and hardening, I guess you will, make it more business minded or business related. I'm going to be updating those documents to make them look more professional in 2025. But right now, just go off the templates we have and you change them as you see fit, because they're only templates. So you can take away and add to as you see fit for your company, because everybody's philosophy about how they do their dispatching is different. Okay. And that's no problem. There's no problem with that. Okay. So profile your driver information. So that's another point. So number one, the contract. So what are the three? The dispatcher packet and the three documents in the dispatcher packet. You have your dispatch agreement, and I'm going to probably do shorthand, abbreviate a little bit because I don't want to be writing here all day. What is the dispatcher agreement? That is the literal contract, if you will, between you and the carrier. It lines up what services you're going to be providing for the truck driver that you're going to be dispatching for, and what you expect from the truck driver that you're going to be dispatching for, right? That is the dispatcher agreement. That's what it is. That's what the word means. That's an agreement. An agreement means that there's some kind of connection between two people, and you've come into an understanding between yourselves contractually on a piece of paper, right? And you're saying these are my responsibilities and this is what I expect, and these are your responsibilities and this is what you expect. And if we agree to this, well, let's sign and date and come to an agreement, right? Well, with the dispatcher agreement, you have what you're going to charge, either your percentage or your flat fee. That's mainly number one, and other things as well, right? But it is the contract, the dispatcher agreement. Okay. Now, Jennifer just mentioned something else. The second document in the dispatcher packet is the carrier profile. So not only do you have an agreement between this carrier, this truck driver, this owner operator, right? But you want to profile them in such a way that you want to get an understanding from them what it is and how you're going to be dispatching for. What are their requirements, in other words? What do they require? And that's what the profile is. What is my CPM or RPM, right? This is the carrier talking. What's my cents per mile? What's my rate per mile? How much weight do I want you to find for me on a particular load? What lane is it running in? Where is it going? Is that feasible for me in the direction I want to go? The carrier is giving you their requirements of that. Good morning, Shiante. The carrier is giving you their requirements. So the profile, you're just basically, the truck driver is telling you how they want you to find their loads. You are catering to their requirements, specifics, right? They're giving you specifics, literally. So you're doing that when you go search for a load on a load board. That's how you are catering to their requirements, okay? So that's called the carrier profile. So the first document in the dispatch packet is the dispatcher agreement. The second document is the carrier profile. It's their requirements of you, the dispatcher. And then the third document is and I'll abbreviate it, LPOA, the limited power of attorney, okay? Which the limited power of attorney is the carrier's way of allowing you, the dispatcher, to represent them when you are booking loads with brokers. They're telling you, hey, you have my permission. This is the carrier talking to you, the dispatcher, in the limited power of attorney, or I should say on the limited power of attorney documentation. They're saying, hey, I'm the carrier. I'm allowing this person who's my dispatcher to sign and print my name on those documents that are going to help me find loads. And the only two documents that those are the broker carrier agreement, which onboards your carrier to a broker if they're not already set up, and then the rate confirmation or the load confirmation, or we call it the rate con, okay, which officially books the load. So the process of booking a load involves either one of these steps or both of them. It involves both of these steps if the carrier's MC number or DOT is not a part of that brokerage, or is not, they are not an onboard or a carrier that's set up with that brokerage. If your carrier's MC number is not a part of a brokerage that you called on a load from a load board, then you would have to do both steps. You would have to first get them approved. That's the broker carrier agreement. And then you would have to do the rate confirmation, sign the rate con, agreeing to that load or whatever you negotiated it for. Okay, that's if the MC is not in their system already, the brokerage's system. If the MC number, that your carrier's MC number, that motor carrier authority, is an approved carrier for a brokerage, then you only have to do the rate con. The broker carrier agreement has already been done because they're already approved. Does everybody understand that? Does everybody understand that piece? If my carrier is already approved, an already approved carrier, in other words, their authority has been approved and they've been vetted by any particular broker, any broker, whatever broker you call, right, on a load from a load board, and that carrier's authority is already in their system, then you only have to worry about the rate con. Okay. If it is not you in their system, then you have to get it in their system. You have to get them approved. So you have to do the broker carrier agreement first, right? Fill that out and then send in copies of the carrier's credentials, their MC, their certificate of insurance, their W-9, and any factoring information, okay, which is the notice of assignment and the credit application, okay? And we talk about this repetitively all the time. So, okay. But these are the three, right now we're talking about infrastructure. So these are the three documents that you, the dispatch company, would have to create either from your own template discovery or from our templates: dispatcher agreement, carrier profile, limited power of attorney, per each carrier, okay? This is the infrastructure. You want to have these created. In addition to this infrastructure, which is the dispatch packet, you need copies of the carrier's credentials, okay? So let's do that. So once you create these documents and you send them to the carrier, let's say you got a carrier that wants to work with you or want you to be their dispatcher, you create your packet from the templates, or in other words, you create your own template, and then you send it to each carrier that you're going to, a prospective carrier that you're going to be dispatching for. Now, when they fill this out and send it back to you, you want them to send you copies of their qualifying documents. Why do you need that? Because when you talk to the brokers, every broker is going to try to qualify it, especially if that carrier's MC number is not already in the system, in their system has been an approved carrier. So number two of infrastructure is the carriers. We'll say carriers qualifying documents, or we'll just say carriers credentials. In other words, what qualifies a carrier, an owner operator, to be an owner operator? Well, what's the number? There's three main documents and then two other supplemental, depending on if they have a factoring company. So what's the first thing that qualifies a truck driver, owner operator, carrier to be who they say they are?
MC number,
The MC
DOT
authority.
number.
That's correct. So every truck driver needs to have an authority, which is governed by who? The FMCSA. What does the FMCSA stand for? Federal Motor Carrier Safety administration. So I say it like that because there are key words there. It's a federal entity. We're dealing with motor carriers. We're big on safety because we're in that industry, and it's their administration. So Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. And that's an easy way to remember it. Federal Motor Carrier Safety. So if you get a carrier who cannot provide you a copy of their MC Authority um, certificate, because that's what it is, it's not a license, it's a certificate. If you get a carrier who wants you to dispatch for them, but they can't provide you their authority certificate, should you dispatch for them?
No, you can't.
Exactly. Why? I was going to say why. Well, why can't you dispatch for them? Just because you say no, but why? Why can't you?
Nobody will give you low.
That's correct. No freight broker. You go to a load board, you find a load that meets the carrier's profile, what they require of you. You call that broker and start to negotiate the rate, try to get more money for the load and whatever, and everything's going well. But then the broker says, "Oh, what's his MC? What's your MC?" And you're like, "What's that? What's that? Or what's your
Most
carrier?"
time, most time they won't even talk to you without giving the MC first.
That's correct, because they want to look in their system to see if you're going to waste their time. They're going to see if that carrier's MC is already in their system as an approved carrier. If it is, then they'll go ahead and continue the conversation because it cuts their workload down. Or your carrier's already set up with them. And then now the broker's going to try to get into the art of trying to manipulate you for less money and give you the load for less pay, right? So that's where your negotiating skills come in at. But you got to get to that point first by having a carrier with an MC. So let's say you get past that point and your carrier does have an MC. So now, and you go to try to get set up with that brokerage because the MC is not a part of that brokerage. That broker is going to send you a contract between that carrier and them, which is called the broker carrier agreement. And part of that, they're going to ask for the MC, but they're going to ask for something else too, to make sure that they can ensure what the broker is going to give them, the freight. They want to make sure that they have coverage to ensure that. So your carrier needs to send you a copy of their certificate of what? Insurance, right? Because they need to have the proper insurance to cover what they have the authority to transport. And these are copies, by the way, copies of, you don't have to have their originals. Copies of will be more than suffice. On the certificate of insurance, there are usually two main types on the policy that are givens, right? You want cargo, and that's usually at a minimum of 100,000, 100K, and then liability, usually at a minimum of 1 million. Now, most minimum commercial insurance companies only require 750,000 for liability, but most brokers are saying 1 million. So it's just good to get a carrier with 1 million. Now, can you dispatch for a carrier with 750,000 liability and 100,000 cargo? Of course you can. But it's best. You'll make your job a whole lot easier and less stressful if you get carrier with 1 million liability and 100,000 cargo. Now, these are minimums. Some of them have more. Some of them just meet the minimum requirements. So, and yeah, Jennifer said you should vet your drivers first. Yeah, so before you even, that's a great point, Jennifer. Before you even contact the brokers on a load that you found for your carrier, you want to vet your drivers first. Because why would you waste the broker's time and yours calling for a load if you have a carrier who either A, doesn't have an MC number or a certificate of insurance, or the third piece, which is the W-9? Why would you would want to make sure you get all that first? The W-9 just shows that the carrier has an EIN number for their trucking company, an employer identification number. They are a legitimate company for tax purposes in the IRS. Right. You get more loads with the 1 million liability, yes, because you have more coverage, you have more insurance. especially the larger carriers, the dry vans, the flatbeds, and the reefer. That is true, Shanta. So yeah. And some of the brokers' shipments require, if they're going to pay you a larger amount, then their requirement for insurance coverage should be larger or is larger. That just makes sense. I'm going to pay, if I'm going to give you more money, then I need you to have more insurance coverage or more to cover on the insurance, I should say. So, all right. So this is the second piece in your infrastructure. So the first piece in your dispatching business infrastructure is your documents that you create from our templates or otherwise, the dispatcher agreement, the carrier profile, and the limited power of attorney. The second piece in the infrastructure is the carrier's credentials, the MC authority, the certificate of insurance, and the W-9. Now, there are two other things in here as well that makes up the carrier's credentials, assuming if the carrier has what's called a factoring company. So there are two other supplemental documents that are needed if the carrier has a factoring company. So we're going to put D as in dog and E as in echo under carrier's credentials. Okay. So D is if they have a factoring company. D is each factoring company has what's called a credit application for their clients. In this case, the client of the factoring company will be your carrier. So they have a credit application, and the purpose of the credit application is to run a credit check on each and every broker that they're going to be moving loads for and turning in invoices to be paid for moving those loads. The factoring company wants to make sure that the brokers are credit worthy and favorable for factoring and lines of credit and things like that. So they want to make sure that the types of questions or the lines of questioning on the application cell, they'll look for red flags. Have you ever had a claim filed against your brokerage, against your bond? Have you ever had a claim filed against you for breach of contract? Breach of contract meaning that brokers pay in certain number of days, like net, what they call them net terms, like net 7, net 15, net 30, or whatever, right? Have you ever had cases where you've had claims filed against you for breach of contract because of you didn't pay within the bounds of your net terms? And that's literally the verbiage. So that's the credit application. So you would get a blank copy of that from your carrier to have in your possession in your infrastructure for your dispatching service per each carrier for their particular factoring company representatives, OTR, Seven Oaks, RTS, Foley's, Taft's, whatever factoring company you're using. Okay, there are tons of them out there, but their concepts are the same. And then the second one, which I should have put first, but is the notice. We call it the NOA. What does the NOA stand for, guys? I was gonna write it, but I'll stop writing for a second. What is
Assignment.
notice of assignment? Very good. Look at that big map Shanta got behind her. Well, that is impressive. What in the world? You got an 8-foot by 9-foot map behind you.
I need to see where they at. See, they'll tell you anything. You need to know what's close to them, so you can get them unstuck if they get stuck. So yeah.
That part right there, that part.
Yeah, I'm visual, so I like to see stuff. So
As a dispatcher, if you're not visual as a dispatcher, you're going to learn to be, because that is very important. If I was you, I would have different colored thumbtacks poking them into the maps representing wherever your carrier is at, and then you just take them out and put them
actually, I have two. I have another one.
Look at that. I need to shut up. I'm giving my game away. That's my
So I
game.
use this one too, for the time zone.
Yeah.
I printed that out. Can you see it? Yeah, I printed that one out for the time zone.
Oh yeah, there you go. So you got the time zones are Eastern, Central. Eastern is red, or orange, I guess, is Central, Mountain, and Pacific. So yeah. And they increase and decrease by an hour depending on which direction you go in.
Yeah.
Right. So right now it is 11:38 Eastern time because I'm in an Eastern time zone. So that'll be 10:38 and now 39 in Central, 9:39 in Mountain, and 8:39 in Pacific. Going from east to west, it goes down by an hour. Going from west to east, it goes up by an hour, right? So,
And these are certain things, especially the time zone map. Certain things, a new carrier like the box truck carrier is not gonna be, that's not even gonna be on their mind. They're just trying to make money. Certain things you gotta make yourself responsible for to make sure everything fall in place. So it's less stress on you, because at the end of the day, they're not thinking about they're going from here to here and it's a different time zone. I mean, they knew that. They just thinking, they getting used to things just like you. So it's just
so
things
those,
that I want
that's a
more.
great point. So the more you know as a dispatcher, the better service you can provide to your carriers. Exactly. So yeah. So the notice of assignment the purpose of that is for the factoring companies to let any and every broker that they're going to come in contact with know that their client is now that carrier. And any invoices that are payable by the broker to that carrier are now payable by the broker to the factoring company, because they've stepped in and have already given that carrier a certain amount of money, a certain percentage, like 85%, 90% of that load, that rate con, or that amount that was negotiated, right? And they'll get that money on the back end from the broker, right? So now with factory companies, you want to be aware of certain redefined print, because there are UCC liens, there's recourse, non-recourse factoring. In other words, if the broker does not pay the factoring company, if they breach the contract with the factoring company has no other quote unquote recourse but to go after the person who they've given that large sum of money to. Well, who is that? That's the carrier, right? They gave that upfront money to the carrier for a small percentage in order to allow them to have upfront cash flow to keep running, because the carriers cannot afford to wait on the net terms of the brokers. That's why they use factoring, so they can get that upfront money to keep running. I got to get fuel, I got to pay for tires, I got to keep going, pay my expenses. I can't wait 15 days. I did this load today. I expect to get paid either tomorrow or the next day and move on to the next load. I can't wait 2 weeks out, says the carrier. So that's why they use the factoring company. Yes, Lexi, or
The wall.
yes, Lawals, yes.
Yeah, okay, quick question. So, in the scheme of all these transactions going on, how do you, this dispatcher, get paid? How does your payment, where does your payment come from, and how do you get paid?
As a dispatcher, you are directly contracted between you and who? The carrier, right? The motor carrier. So as a business, you set up your payment structure how you see fit, and it's reasonable between you and that carrier. So when you book a load for your carrier, right? You let them know, like, okay, I'm charging 8%.
Okay,
Raycon sent over, let's say the load is 2,500. Okay, as an example. What's 8% of 2,500? Somebody do the quick math real quick.
that's about $200 or so, if my memory serves me right. $200, yeah.
200?
Yep.
Yep, so you're due $200. Now,
Mm.
when that carrier delivers that load to the consignee or the receiver, you could decide when you want to send your carrier an invoice to their email, either through your PayPal account, through some kind of invoice account you may have, QuickBooks, however you send your invoices to your carriers. You decide when you want to do it. Now, when I was doing it about 6, 7 years ago, when I booked that load and that Raycon was signed and that broker sent out the copies of that Raycon, and my carrier drove to pick up the load from the shipper and was transporting it to the receiver, when they got to the receiver, I produced an invoice for my carrier and sent it to their email for whatever the amount of, in this example, $200, right?
Okay.
But for whatever the amount was, right? And sometimes you can be in a good relationship with I was in a good relationship with one carrier who said, man, when you book the load for me and I pick the load up, go ahead and send me your invoice. I know I'm going to get paid. I'll go ahead and pay you ahead of
Okay.
time. So it depends on the relationship per carrier that you have with the carrier as a dispatcher, and how well you are doing your job as a dispatcher. And also time is a big factor too, because you build relationships with carriers over time. You
With
have
time.
to prove you have to prove yourself with the loads over time, doing good jobs, staying in communication with the carriers, making sure that they have what they need that's within your power, right? You only can do so much as a dispatcher, right?
Yeah.
Stay in communications with the brokers. Make sure that you are keeping the brokers abreast of what your carrier is doing, if you can. Only to you're limited in that aspect, because the brokers can easily call the cell number of the driver of that load, because most of them do. They do what's called check calls. They'll call when they'll say, "I'm gonna call you when you get to," or "Call me when you get to the consignee or the shipper. Call me when you're loaded. Call me when you get to the receiver, and call me when you're offloaded." This is what brokers do with the carrier, because the reason of that is they want to keep their customer, the shippers, updated. That's what the brokers do. So they do what's called check calls. So the dispatcher, you can be involved in that a little bit, but not too much. You don't want to overstep your bounds. But to answer your question, I would, and you have the flexibility to choose when, but I would wait until the load is at least secure and at least on its way to the consignee or the receiver for delivery. Or even if it's offloaded and you got a copy of, or the carrier got a copy of the POD. That's an important piece right there.
I wanted to add something to that about, excuse me, Charles.
Go ahead.
As when you say do as much as you can, that is what's gonna, if you start off with 8%, that's what's gonna get you to 10% and even more, because a lot of times you're helping the carrier out by sending the POD. So just if you take the duty of them having to send the email of the POD after they take the pictures, after they made the delivery, if something went wrong, if something was damaged on the delivery, you have to take a picture of it and send it to them before the carrier leave that delivery spot and go on to the next one. They have to contact the broker and let them know, so that they can, make record of it, that they acknowledged it before they left, as well as send the pictures in. So I made it easier on my carrier by, you just take the picture and send it to me. I'm gonna crop it, I'm gonna send it in the email and make sure it get to them so that you can get paid at the end of the day. And he did sign initially the 3-day pay thing, but he was getting paid every day, because I was so consistent with making sure everything was correct, making sure the pictures, was legible. Because I mean, sometimes when they be in a rush and they feel like they're gonna be falling behind, they'll just snap the picture and it's all crooked. They're not gonna take that. They just gonna send it back and make you do it again. So that's having to make the carrier take out time to pull over, redo the picture, everything, just to get paid. And so by me making it easier, I got paid more, because he just retook. I was like, okay, so you got to fix this picture, you got to take it again. He snapped the picture and sent it to me. He's still rolling, So that's just something to keep in mind to help you stay afloat, to get, build up your, even when he did not work, just say if he took a week off, he still paid me my 10%. So, I never felt like I was losing, because I was consistent with making sure he got paid. So he made sure I was happy.
Right. So hopefully you guys heard what Shanta said. A few things she said, that she did some CYA. She covered herself, like before the carrier left, either the shipper or the receiver, or the shipper took pictures of the freight, made sure it was inside the trailer and it was loaded, and then got to the receiver to be offloaded and got the POD. But the POD says, like, look, here's what the POD does: a proof of delivery. Proof of delivery. It says, okay, we're the receiver. We got the freight. We've checked it in. We did our QA. Nothing was damaged, and we accept the freight, and we've taken ownership of it. That's what the POD says. The receiver has received it, and they've signed off on it, and here's the document proving it, and it's called the POD. The POD is nothing more but a transferred BOL. That's all it is. The BOL is the BOL starts at the shipping location. Every truck driver gets a copy of the BOL, which is the manifest of the goods and what's on what's listed on there, the pallet count, the piece count, the weight, what the commodity is, things like that. And it gets loaded, and the shipping manager there signs off on it. There's nothing damaged. Everything's accounted for. Here's the BOL. Freight is transported from the shipper to the receiver. The receiver takes the signed BOL. It was signed and time-stamped by the shipping person at the shipping location. And sometimes the driver signs next to that just to verify it, right? And then it goes to the receiving location, or the consignee. And then the receiving location manager, or the consignee manager, offloads the freight at their facility and double checks, make sure that there are no O, S, or Ds. I don't know if you heard of this before. Overs, shorts, or damages. That's what they look for. Over, because they're looking, if there are any overs, shorts, or damages, they have a reason to file, either a reason to reject the freight or a reason to file a claim against it. It depends on who's to blame. If the broker is to blame for the over, short, or damage, then a claim will be filed against the bond of the broker. If your carrier is the reason why there is an over, short, or damage, then a claim will be filed against the insurance of your carrier. That's how it works. That's the bottom line, right? Can't sugarcoat that. It's all or nothing. So if there are no over, shorts, and damages, then the receiver will sign the POD in their area, verifying everything, and the BOL turns into a POD. And this is the invoice or the receipt that the carrier uses to get paid. They'll either send it to you, the dispatcher, or upload it to the factoring company. If they don't have a dispatcher, they're doing it themselves. Some way the factoring company needs to receive the POD and any other documents. They may need to receive receipts from having to pay a lumper or an accessorial. They may have received other things to prove that they need their money, right? They get their money. The POD gives them the line haul. That is the line haul rate that was on the rate con that they delivered it, because I picked up from the shipper and I delivered to the receiver. Here's the POD. I need to be paid for that line haul. Anything extra I need to be paid for, I need to have receipts of that. Like if I paid for a lumper, if I paid for if I'm getting detention, if I have a tonu or any type of accessorial, I need to turn that paperwork in to the carrier, to either the factory company or the broker to get paid also. So, but this is as far as the carrier's credentials. D and E is also there. D and E is optional if your carrier is working or has a factoring company. If they do not, then it's just A, B, and C. MC Authority, Certificate of Insurance, W-9. Okay? Any questions there? We got it? You guys should copy, you should screenshot Shanta's screen right now and then copy her background with the map and the time zones and everything like that. That's a good example. And get the color-coded pins representing each carrier so you can pinpoint where they are, stick them in the map and where they're going to. And then have dry erase markers drawing the line haul where they're going to and from, and then erase them once the load is done.
Yeah,
now I'm telling you,
I have a whiteboard on the other
right,
side.
Now I'm literally telling you what I used to do.
Yeah, the whiteboard with the dry erase.
And trust me, it worked. It kept me like, because I would have been all over the place. Like, dang, where's my carrier at today? I mean, if I didn't have the Raycon, I would be like lost. But it keeps it organized, in other words. So dispatching is
a way for, excuse me, Charles. It's also a way for you to build a relationship with. It's open opportunity when you're in the mix with the broker and you have to send the emails and stuff. They're gonna be emailing you and you're gonna be emailing them and then calling you sometimes to ask questions, or you can call them and ask questions. And that is just open opportunity for you to build a relationship with the broker to work with other carriers as well.
That is true. And also factoring companies do that too. Some factoring companies will use dispatchers to help them, especially if a factoring company gets a new carrier as a client, and that carrier is struggling to find loads in order to give to the factoring companies so they can start paying them. They're going to look to dispatchers to help that carrier. Like, help me, I got a new carrier signed up for factoring, but they seem to have trouble finding loads. Can you help them? And then they'll connect you with their information, and you reach out to them and say, hey, man, I'm a dispatcher. I got your information from XYZ factoring company. They said you need some help finding loads. Oh, yeah, I got a box truck, or I got whatever I got. And then they said, can you help me? And then you start to ask those preliminary pre-dispatching type of questions. Where do you normally run? How much do you normally get? What's the weight that you require? Or what's the most weight that you're going to put on your trailer? Yada, 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 right? And then you go from there. So you can use certain other companies indirectly to help you find carriers, right? Even brokers. If you got a broker that you're giving them one carrier that they deliver all the time to, and they start sending you emails. Hey man, is your carrier going to be in that same area next week empty? I got another load coming out there, and then you can use that as leverage to try to negotiate a better rate with that broker. So all types of different ways. You just got to understand how to leverage that over time. You'll get that aha moment, man. This broker emails me all the time, giving me loads. Maybe I should start getting other carriers running those same lanes with that same equipment type. If this broker is going to continue to communicate with me. Now, the one thing you don't want to do is try to act like you're the broker because you don't have the authority to do so. So be careful because there is a fine line that you can cross and not even knowing it, right? If a broker sends you a list of emails and you turn around and post them on a load board or go into a social media platform and do it like Facebook or Instagram, you can't do that because you're not a broker, right? You don't have the authority to take a brokerage loads and then repost them somewhere. That is illegal, actually, but and it's frowned upon. What you can do is take their loads, keep them internally with you, and then go after carriers who may have equipment that's moving in that same lane. Let those carriers know, hey, I got a broker who provides some good paying loads. Are you interested? I'm a dispatcher. We can work together? Something like that, right? And that you're perfectly well within your right to do that as a dispatch service because that's what dispatchers do. They help carriers find, and then you'll get even better bypassing the brokers and getting your carriers directly to the shippers, direct customer freight, right? That's next level though. We got to get past this level first. That's next level. That's when you have carriers who have like small to medium fleet of trucks, like 20, 30 trucks. You go directly to the customer and say, hey man, I got capacity to handle your 10 to 15 loads a week requirement. I got 30 trucks. I'm a dispatch service. I got the capacity. I got 30 trucks under my wing. And they're going to say, okay, let me send you over this load tender or let you bid on that lane and see what you say. They're testing you there when they want you to bid. Give me a rate quote or a lane bid. That's what they'll ask you. A rate quote or a lane bid. You're going to ask them for all the details of that lane so that you can give them a rate quote or a lane bid. And you're going to go into a load board, compare that lane to the spot market, and then put your margin on top of that, and then go from there. But that comes later. Later. We want you to get the process down first of being a great dispatcher. First, going through all the good as well as the bad. So a good dispatcher, let me ask you this way. Let me put it this way. Is a dispatcher good because they only know the good part of dispatching? Yes or no?
No, you got to know the good and the bad.
You gotta know the good and the bad.
And
You gotta know the contingencies. You gotta know what happens if your truck gets a blowout. Well, what's a blowout, right? Or what happens if your guy is stuck in traffic and he calls you and say, hey man, I think I'm gonna be late delivering this load. What do you do in that situation? Or what happens if
call the broker immediately.
Right. What happens if, and I'm giving you scenarios that happen to me, that's why I'm saying them. What happens if you get a call at 2 a.m. from one of your carriers at a loading dock? They won't release his truck because he hasn't paid um the lumper. What do you do there? Right. So these are different scenarios. These are real scenarios that happened to me, but we got out of it. So I'm just saying, that's
That
not a
last scenario that you gave with the 2 o'clock, how would you handle that?
great question. And I knew somebody. I knew it was gonna be Petra. I already knew it. But um So I was very fortunate and lucky in that situation. It was a coyote load, right? I broke it, and my guy Smooth, who was a reefer carrier, I still keep in contact with him too, Hakeem. But uh, it was a reefer load. He had to pay the lumper. I think it was like $147. You know how you back your truck into a loading dock and they lock the truck in the loading dock, and there's a
Mhm.
green, a red light there. They'll lock it in. It's red. It's green. You can pull off, right? Some of you understand what I'm saying, right? So um, it was a lumper there, and the lumper was 147, no more than $150. So, and they didn't take cash, and they didn't take credit cards from the carriers. They only that specific facility only took the T codes from the brokers. The carrier my carrier couldn't get in contact with Coyote at the time. Hit the specific broker on the load. Obviously, he's gone home. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. Apparently, he's asleep. Right? He's not answering his phone 2 o'clock in the morning. He's asleep. He don't know. Well, but most brokers should know the details of their load and stay on top of it as it moved. But for whatever reason, he did not. Fortunately, Coyote, which is the brokerage, had a 24-hour call center. I called that call center and said, "Hey, I got a driver over here in wherever he was, wherever USA. He's under a lumper that's not being released until we get a T code from you guys. So here's how you get out of that. They asked me to get a T code generated, sent to me so I can send to my driver. I needed to know the name of the facility that he delivered to, the receiver, the tax ID of the facility, and the amount of the lumper. So I called my carrier back. He was at you know how you wait at the window, that plexiglass window, talking to the guys in there, and they're telling you they can't release. So I'm on the phone with him, and it's lumper, Lumper, not B, not lumber, but lumper, Jennifer put the wrong.
Before you continue, how would we know in advance on certain loads when we're taking it from the broker? Because like you said, your broker didn't even know. So in that instance, if I was taking ahead,
so my broker did know. My broker neglected to explain to us.
So that's what I'm getting at. So how would I, like, if they're telling me certain loads, how would I have like a flag in my head to say, let me ask if there's a lumper on this load?
Great question. Great question. So here's what you do. Specifically with reefer loads, you're almost guaranteed to have some type of lumper with a reefer load, because you're either delivering to cold storage facilities or DCs, distribution centers. And there's going to be a line, there's going to be a weight, there's going to be lumpers, because those facilities load and offload those trailers and they charge for the service. Unless the broker told you that the lumper was included in the rate, expect a lumper fee. Okay. So that's what lumper is, Jennifer. Jennifer asked a question. What is lumper? A lumper fee is what the facilities charge those drivers in the warehouse on those forklifts, loading and offloading those pallets onto the trailers, either at a shipper facility loading it or at a receiver facility offloading it. Okay. That is called lumper. Lump as in Paul, ER, lumper. Okay. So the guy at the 800 number, the call center, gave me the information. I forwarded or gave it to my my driver who's at the window, and he gave it to the T code to the I'm sorry, the driver gave me the information of the facility. I gave it to Coyote's call center. They produced the T code. I gave the T code back to my driver, who gave it to the people at the window. It covered the 147. His trailer got released, and he moved on to he was able to make his 9 a.m. delivery the next morning, which is like some 500 miles away, because he was afraid he wasn't going to make that delivery if they was going to hold him that long, because he said, I would have had to wait till the morning till they opened up regularly and to get released. It's 2 in the morning. That's another 7 hours. There would have been no way he could have made another 5 hours, a 500-mile drive from where he was to where he needed to get his next load. Because I had multiple loads or multiple shipments on that trailer. It was not just that one shipment. I packed trailers with freight, right? It wasn't an exclusive use type of shipment. An exclusive use shipment means that only one broker's load can be on that trailer. Even let's say that only one broker load was like 13 pallets. Well, you just wasted space, because there's room for more pallets. But if you book a load that's an exclusive, you got to be careful when you read the loads from the brokers. If it's an exclusive use load, you cannot put any other freight on it. Jacqueline, go ahead.
Is it good to, like, piggybacking off Petra, is it good to, like, when you're doing your reefer loads, to maybe kind of just get in the habit of asking your broker, is there a lumper code that goes with this load?
That's exactly what you should do. No, that's exactly what that's a great question. I know where you're heading. So this is how I'm going to answer it. For each of the equipment types, you want to get into the habit of learn the types of questions you need to ask. For a reefer, you need to have a checklist of saying, okay, a lumper is a type of what's called an accessorial. An accessorial is something that should be paid extra to the carrier for something that they didn't cause. That carrier didn't cause a charge to be held against them for loading and unloading that trailer. That carrier did not cause for them taking too much time longer than necessary to load and unload that trailer. That's called detention. That trailer, that carrier didn't cause the load to be canceled while he or she was on their way to a facility. That's called TONU, truck ordered not used, right? That carrier didn't cause a facility to come out to the truck and say, hey, man, we can't load you until the next day. All of our workers getting ready to go home, and you have to either sit here or go off site to a truck stop. That's called layover. So these are different types of accessorials, right? So when you're dealing with brokers and even direct shippers sometimes, but when you're dealing with brokers, ask those types of questions. Create yourself a checklist. You know, are there any accessorials on this shipment? And if so, what are they? And then what are our contingencies when it comes to the accessorials? And or reach out to me. I can help you with that. That's not a problem. So
I got a tonneau over the weekend that I quickly recovered from.
right. I remember you telling me about that, with the box truck, right?
Yeah. I got a load going to the port, and then they said, do you have E-Track? I said, yes, I have E-Track, because I had one on each side. And when I got there at the port, they couldn't load him because they needed 4 E-Tracks.
Right, 2 on either side because they want to better secure the freight. If he would
And that's
have
the picture that I sent. So I got a tonneau on that load, but my broker had multiple loads coming out of that port. So what my driver did, Arbor Freight was like 5 minutes away. So he ran to Arbor Freight, bought more E-Track, and installed them right then and there in the parking lot, and went back to the port and picked up another load from there.
I remember you telling me that, and remember me asking you the question, were they vertical or horizontal E-Tracks?
Yeah, so you see the picture is vertical. They could have put them horizontal if he had gotten 2 extra one and put one on top. They could
Right.
have put them horizontal because there would have been like 3 E-Tracks, but he got it at the bottom, so they put them horizontal. You could see it in the picture that I put in the chat.
Right. So in the chat, in the Facebook chat, but let me go to Google.
But he got the tonneau on the first one that could not be loaded. And
Right.
then when he got the E-Track, they gave him the second load, which was better anyways, because the second load was triple the amount that I was getting on the first one.
So I'm going to Google and I'm going to hit images, right? So I'm going to go to E-Tracks, right, in the trailer, and then show you a picture of what Petra's talking about. Here we go. That's a vertical E-Track, right? These are E-Tracks. These are vertical. Vertical are better because you could put more of them in there. If they were horizontal, they would be spread across a little bit more, spread a little bit more thinner. These are vertical E-Tracks. And this trailer has 2 sets, or 4, because 2 on either side. So this is what Petra is referring to, the E-Track. And she's referring to a box truck. So this one right here looks more like a box. Well, no, this is a reefer because you got them on the ground. This is the reefer. You can tell this is a reefer trailer because of the flooring. But these are E-Tracks, and they are vertical in nature. You see, this is a dry van trailer with E-Tracks, 53 feet. There are a ton of them in there, right? So you can strap. The purpose of E-Tracks is you use straps in there. You ratchet them you connect them. You click the right here. You click the connector to the E-Track, and then they have straps in there, and you ratchet the straps tight to secure the freight. That's how that's done. Now, if
you want, you could put my picture on the big screen and explain the strap and show them how the load is loaded.
Right, and here's the straps. These are the straps that they're talking about too. Right there, and right there as well. But yeah, Jacqueline, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand. Go ahead, Jacqueline.
You okay? On that lumper fee, that's like a fee that how can I phrase this? Okay, that fee is not going to be anything that's going to be added to the carrier. It's just a fee that once I get the code, relay it to the driver. That's something it's like a wash.
Correct. So what it is it's an accessorial. So some facilities Some facilities will charge for the service of loading and offloading the trailers.
Okay.
That's the lumper. Now, sometimes the lumper fee can be included in the line haul rate to help cover that cost. Other times it is not, and it has to be paid somehow. Some facilities allow the carriers to pay it, and they're reimbursed if they get a receipt and turn it in once they get their POD. Remember, I was saying when you get paid, carriers get paid. After they get the POD, they turn that in to get paid, and any other invoices, one of which could have been a receipt for paying something. That's an example of it. If a facility would allow a carrier to pay the lumper themselves and give them a receipt, the carrier can easily turn that receipt in with their POD and get reimbursed for covering the cost of the lumper.
What if my driver don't have the money for the fee?
Then he will either he pays cash, credit card, or he'll call the broker, and the broker will release a T code to cover that cost.
That's okay. That's the T code you were telling me about. Okay.
That's the T, right? Because now the broker is taking on the cost through the T code is just a transaction, almost like an EFS, like a transaction to cover the cost of that. Somehow, somebody has to cover it.
Would that change the amount of the load that my driver was going to get?
No, the line haul has already been established.
Okay.
This is an accessorial. This is something extra. This is what's called an accessorial. Let me bring up the whiteboard so I can explain it.
So John,
just before we continue, with the lumper, is it only reefers that would I only encounter that with reefers, or would there
No,
be...
of course not. No, of course not. No.
Okay, so there are other instances. So
yes, definitely.
Most likely reefers will be an indication. What other indication on a load?
Great question. Let me bring up the whiteboard and better explain it to you visually. I don't know if Lawal, your question is kind of related to this, what I'm about to explain, but if not, just hang on. I'll grab it for you. So in transportation, in the delivery service, right, you got what's called accessorials, right? These are extras that are due to the carrier for things that they didn't cause. It was not their fault for these charges being incurred. One of which is called detention. It's not the carrier fault that a shipper or a receiver takes longer than necessary to either load or offload that carrier's trailer. That's called detention. When you look at the broker carrier agreement or the rate con for detention, it usually says free after 2 or 3 hours. In other words, the carrier is giving them 2 or 3 hours for free. Anything after that, there's a certain amount per hour that the broker is due to pay the carrier. And that range is anywhere between $50 to $150 an hour, depending on who they're dealing with. Yes, Shanta. I can't hear you.
I was saying, I will ask the question after you finish explaining that because it's kind of related.
Okay. What, the detention? Detention?
Yes, I was saying I will ask the question after you finish explaining what you was talking about.
Okay. So accessorials. So the first accessorial type, there are a whole ton of different types of accessorials. I'm going to give you the 4 common ones across any equipment type, whether it's dry van, whether it's flatbed, whether it's reefer, whether it's straight box, whether it's hot shot, whether it's cargo van and sprinter van. Okay, these accessorials are universal. To answer Petra's question, they're universal across any of the equipment types. In other words, they have the ability to produce themselves regardless of the equipment type. That's a better way to say it. These accessorials have the ability to produce themselves because you could be at a facility waiting forever to be loaded with a sprinter van just as much as you can with a dry van. Because the guys on the forklift could have went to lunch, or the forklift could have broke down. They got to get a company to come out there and repair it real quick, but you still got to get loaded and get out of there. Time passes, right? It's past 2 or 3 hours. It took the repair person an hour and a half to get there. They fix it in another hour. That's 2.5 hours. They still got to take 3 hours to load you. You see? So there's different scenarios that can happen that causes accessorials. Okay. Detention is the first one. All right. The second type of accessorial, which what we're talking about, is lumper. Okay, lumper. So LUMP, P is in Paul, ER, lumper. What that is, at the shipper or the receiving facility, they charge to load or offload the trailer. The workers there, the facility does. They charge for that. They don't include it in the line haul rate. They'll charge extra for that. Okay? So to load and offload. All right? Depending on the facility that you book the load, and the broker knows this. Now, whether they share this with you or not is on the broker. That's their fault. But the broker, and they should include it in the rate confirmation so you would know. So you need to ask those types of questions in order to cover yourself as a dispatcher. First of all, recognize what type of load you're getting for what type of equipment type, and then think of the possibility of an accessorial producing itself, either a detention, either a lumper, and then create yourself a checklist to ask those types of. Matter of fact, I think I need to create a checklist and put it in the back office. That way, it makes it a whole lot easier. Template, right?
There's
So,
another one. If you go into the port and you don't have the quick card, it's like $50. I
right,
forgot the
right,
name of it.
right. They create what's called a ticket, and they send you back. You got to cover. Yeah, I forget the name of it too. And then the ports you deal with detention at the ports. You deal with demurrage at the ports. What's called demurrage. You got to pay extra for certain things. If the containers stay out past the last free day, the LFD, the last free day, there's a certain charge for that for the containers. I think it's like $35 a day or something like that. So there's so many. That's another type of accessorial called demurrage. Demurrage is just related to ports and containers. We're talking about truckloads right now, right? The rubber to the road, the tractors, right? So the lumpers, they'll charge, and then whatever their price is, it's based off of the facility, it's based off of the amount of work, how many pallets, what the commodity, all these different things. So the price, I can't give you the numbers because it varies. Just know that they charge for the labor of loading and unloading that trailer for the driver. Okay, that's called lumper. That's the second one. All right. The third one is tonu. We all know what tonu, right? Well, I can't say we all know, but I'll break it down. Um, tonu is an acronym. What does tonu stand for those who know?
Truck order not used.
Truck. Very good, Shante. Truck ordered. In other words, the truck was booked. The broker booked the truck through you, the dispatcher, and your carrier. Truck ordered, but it was not used because the load by the broker and the shipper indirectly or directly got canceled. So you booked the load with your carrier with a broker, let's say Coyote or TQL or CH Robinson or whoever. Your driver is halfway on their way to the shipper to pick the load up. Broker calls you, the dispatcher. Hey man, my shipper called me and said we don't need that load until next week. We gotta cancel that load. What? What the what? What the fudge? You know what word I want to use, right? But what? Because you're expecting this $3,000 load, $3,500 load. You about to get paid. You about to make 8% off of that. Like, dang, I missed 8. So now you gotta do the ominous task of letting your carrier know that the load got canceled, right? And there's nothing you can do about it except the access. Now, let me say this too. I didn't make this point in the beginning. With accessorials, you got to be sure that the broker that you're booking that load for your carrier with has accessorial policies that they participate in accessorials. If they don't participate in the accessorials, if an accessorial occurred, you don't get paid because they don't care about. I don't care about tonu or detention. We don't participate in that. We say that in our contract. Or we made a note of that on the rate con. No, we don't do accessorials. So if you see that prior to booking the load, you have to make a decision now. Do you still want to book that load with that broker? Because if an accessorial, detention, tonu, or lumper or anything like that produces itself, this broker don't participate with accessorials, so you're not going to get paid. You see? So you got to be mindful of that. So tonu is truck ordered, not used, right? You booked the load. In other words, you booked the load with the broker, got the rate con, right? Got the rate con. Your truck was over on its way, and then it got canceled. And now you're going to incur and a Tonu, right, got canceled. Tonu's is up to about $250. Okay. And it helps cover the driving there, maybe a little bit of the fuel. That's about it. But you would ask the broker too, and since you canceled the load, do you have anything else available? Most of them are going to say no because they're useless and just, they don't care. They're trying to make their percentage and impress the customers. I'll be frank with you with that one. So, and then finally, the last common one um, is let me do this one we call layover, right? So your driver, he's been doing all these loads all day, and he gets to this last shipper at the end of the day, and he's about to get offloaded, right? But they come out and say, man, we can't offload you, man. It's the end of the day. We get ready to go home. All of our workers getting ready to go home in the warehouse. We can't do it. You can either some of them allow you to stay on their campus, even stay in the same loading dock that you're in, just park there, do your driver do their reset and just chill. Other facilities say, no, you can't stay on our campus legally. You're going to have to pull off and just go to the local truck stop and then come back in the morning. You'll be first in line or whatever, however they say it to you. And at any rate, it's called a layover because you're not getting delivered today. You're going to get delivered the next day whenever they open up, right? Layover. Uh, for the evening, up to 250 a night. Up to, it could be anything less than that, but up to 250 for the layover, right? And that's an inconvenience to your driver because he's hoping to get offloaded. What if you had him on another load going and after he gets offloaded here, going somewhere else? Now he got to freeze for the night, do his reset, 10-hour reset overnight, sleep at the local truck stop, come back here in the morning. That may delay the other loads that you book for him down the line. And you have to go through the process as a dispatcher, calling those other shipment brokers and saying, hey, there's been a delay with us. Can you push this load a little bit back, a little bit back? So you gotta actually start to work now as a dispatcher, letting those other because those other brokers, unbeknownst to them that there's a layover, are still expecting delivery on time according to their rate cons, right? I don't know if I'm another broker from the next load. I don't know that you had a layover. I'm still expecting delivery until you communicate that with me. How am I supposed to know the next broker that your driver's being delayed with a layover? So these are things you got to keep in mind too. Shanta, did I answer your question or?
You said a lot pertaining to it, but a few pieces that I wanted to add was as far as Miss Jacqueline's question when she said, what if my driver don't have the money? So, and this is not nothing that you have to do, but I feel like in trucking, in the trucking industry, in any business, you should, like the driver should have some kind of business credit to, as cushion. So that if because things are gonna happen, like somewhere in the business, even, it might be a blowout or something that they need money for, and they may not have the money right offhand, especially just getting started because they invested so much in actually getting the business off the ground, paying for insurance, truck, all of that stuff. What I do personally for my customers, for my clients, because I'm a business consultant. I make sure they got some kind of business credit started so that when they do get on the road, if they need something, first read the paperwork, read the contract thoroughly, and I mean read it more than 5 times because there's always something in there. Like he said, some people don't pay, and most of the time they have it in the contract, but you may have overlooked it and not recognized it. But if it's something that is not there, you can always request the broker to add it in. If they're willing to do it, they'll always add it just to make sure your carrier is covered and you as well, just in case, something happened like you were saying, the tow new or the lumper fees. I've always requested, and I've never had an issue with a broker, going back adding, for I can see it myself, so it's in writing because they'll tell you something. Then if something happened, it's not in writing. It's just, they told you. They got a lot of other people they're dealing with and working with, so they may not remember. So that's one thing to make sure you look over and go over with your carrier to make sure. And, when you communicate with the broker, what needs to be added to that contract so that they're covered just in case of lumper fees or anything like that. And, the business credit so that they'll have some kind of cushion. Most of the time when people start their business, they're dealing with some kind of bank to get their business bank account. I prefer building a strong relationship with the bank, whoever they, open the business bank account with, so that they can build credibility with them. Because I mean, they gotta trust you just like everybody else. So, but it's the easiest way to build that cushion when they're first getting started, so they won't have to worry about not having money. But if the fees are in the contract and they have to pay it, if he said, okay, you go ahead and pay it and I'll reimburse you, okay, he can swipe the credit card and keep going. I mean, it's saving time by having that cushion to save the day, So it was just something that I wanted to add because I've had to do that. I mean, it's just personal, experience with my carriers.
Very good. It's good to hear that because now everyone gets a realistic perspective on
it happens. You don't want to hear, oh, I ain't got no money, because I mean so money is gonna having money to pay that fee, and they're gonna reimburse you when you get paid, when they pay you at the end of the day, versus having to wait overnight or whatever. If they take a card or whatever, if you're able to do it, you definitely want to be able to do it so you can keep moving and not have to sit still until somebody else can pay it.
Who do you suggest for beginner business credit for the drivers? For beginner drivers?
What was the question? Who do I suggest?
What do you suggest?
Like what companies would you suggest as far as business credit is concerned?
Well, starting out, because they're new, whatever company bank they start their business bank account with, because everybody have to have one.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Very good. Any other questions? I got on the screen the accessorial, an example accessorial policy and some of the numbers. This is not etched in stone, but these are examples, like detention for a dry box or a dry van, detention for a frozen or a reefer, detention for flatbed. So they vary, 75 hours per hour after the first 2 hours, and then up to $250 max for the day. So this is how some people's policies are. And it depends on what type of facility you go to, like the FCFS. For those who don't know, what does FCFS stand for?
First come, first serve.
First come, first serve. Those are the 24-hour shippers and receivers. Sometimes they're DCs, distribution centers. But yeah, yep. Those are the ones you may not have to have an appointment set for. First come, first serve. No appointment. So there may be a line that you're waiting in, like 6 or 7 trucks. You just pulled up. You got those trucks in front of you, and they only got like maybe 4 bay doors there. So you're going in the order that you got there, right? So situations like that. So there's so many variables involved in dispatching and so many things that could potentially happen. You have to be ready for that, right? You have to be ready for that. And sometimes you deal with it on the fly. But sometimes that's the best way to do it, because now you're going to learn from it, right? And if you get stuck anywhere, 757-515-1684. That's my number. It's been my number for years. So all you got to do is call me, because I've seen it all and done it all to the fullest. So any scenario I could get you out of, and if I can't, I got 2 people on my staff, or resources, I should say, not on my staff, my broker mentor, my carrier mentor that can, they'll hear me asking the question. They'll be like, first of all, Charles, why are you wasting my time calling me? You should have known it, but then they'll go ahead and answer it. But yeah, but that's how it is. So you got major resources that can help you in your journey as a dispatcher, right? So we got, again, layover, TONU, redelivery charge, uploading or unloading, which unloading is, another word for unloading is what? That's lumper. Loading and unloading, that's lumper. This is what I meant. Redelivery charge, you get somewhere and they reject the freight. And the shipper said, well, what will you ask the shipper? Or the broker said, let me ask the shipper what they want to do. Well, they said, well, can you redeliver it back? Can you take it back to the shipper location? Well, your carrier can charge them a redelivery charge. I'm not going to do it for free, right? I'm not burning my gas for you for free. Send me another rate con for the same amount going back in the opposite direction. That's a redelivery charge. That's an accessorial. That's something that occurred. That's not the fault of the driver, right? But the driver should get paid for the service. That's another accessorial. So remember, layover, $250 per day. TONU, $150. I said $250. I was wrong, but this one says $150. So for TONU, so someone's great to say something.
I'm sorry, Charles. For the redelivery, just to piggyback on that, if I have a load and I get to my delivery, to my receiver, and they don't accept that load, do I
Correct.
have to, do my driver have to drive it back to the
If
shipper?
they do, if the shipper is asking for that load to be brought back to their shipping facility, that is a redelivery charge. Have your driver or tell that broker, like, look, you need to get another rate con from your customer to pay us to redeliver it. I'm not gonna, or get this off my trailer, says the driver. Get this load, get these pallets off my trailer. They got rejected here at the shipper. The shipper don't want them. Okay, well then I'll take them to a local spot to just sell it. I'll get these pallets off my trailer. The shipper, I'm sorry, not the shipper. The receiver don't want it. They rejected it, and it's
So
still
it's the
sitting on.
broker's responsibility to take the pallets off. And if the broker doesn't take the pallets off, it's fair game from that point.
It's the broker's responsibility to decide after rejection at the receiver what to do with those pallets, and the broker's only recourse is to contact the customer and say, "What do you want to do, customer?" Customer say either you can get rid of it, I don't care, or bring them back to our facility because they're valued at a certain amount. So we'll tender you another rate, another load tender, and you produce another rate con for your driver to pay them the same amount or maybe even more. If I were you, I ask for more because you wasted my time. I could have been somewhere else.
Okay.
As a driver. So
And now if
yeah,
they say they don't care,
then they'll either sell it to the receiver, even though they rejected it. The receiver probably can recycle it or salvage it for some value, or you take it to there's some local spots out here too you can get rid of freight. So I'm not gonna say that on the recording, but you know what I mean. So so
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Yep. You guys good? I won't keep you for 2 hours. I'll keep you for an hour and a half today, which is now 12:30. But
Thank you. It was a lot of good info today. Thank
Oh,
you.
that sheet that you have for those accessorials, are you going to post them on, or is it on the portal?
it is in the back office right here under tools and resources. No, I'm sorry, under forms and documents. If you scroll down past the broker credentials, miscellaneous documents, right here in the center, accessorial
Okay.
policy right here. Bam.
All right. Perfect.
All right. Very good.
And one more question, Charles. You said that
Yes, ma'am.
checklist. Is that checklist back here, or that's something you're going to create and then add on to the
Create
document?
and add on. Right now,
Okay. Right.
right now I just have a low details cheat sheet, but the checklist we probably need to have further discussion, create an outline
Okay.
before I create the PDF so we can all be on the same page and what to expect.
Absolutely.
So
Yep.
in future trainings, we'll do that, and then we'll go ahead and I'll create an initial one in Word and then open it up in Word in the training, and we can add to and take away as we see fit. That way I like doing it that way because we all learn at the same time, right? So do you guys agree with that? Are you guys comfortable with doing it that way?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, I just want to make sure. 2025, nah. So, okay. All righty. Great training. I'll call this infrastructure. I'll title this one infrastructure, and we'll go into that. All right, guys. Let me I do have a January calendar in here, I believe. I think I did it already. My wife stays on top of me for that, which is good. So thanks, wife. Thanks, Tasha. So yes, calendar. Okay, so did it today because I wasn't going to train because I didn't consider the first through the fourth a full week, but then I said, yeah, it is. It's 4 days. That's a full week. So I said the second because we do every second and fourth week of each month. So the next one will be Wednesday, the 8th at 6 p.m. and then Saturday at noon at the 11th. So and then the fourth week. So we got it. Hopefully that's legible enough for you guys to grasp. And obviously, if you come into training, you know how to do it correctly because you wouldn't be in the Zoom. So, but I still send out emails for those who are new and still need some kind of the guidance to get here. So, all right, all righty. Thank you. I'll have this recording up later today. All right, and obviously, any questions, give me a call. Shanta, reach out to me when you can. Once you hear back from your people, and then or anything else you want to talk about as well. Okay.
Okay, I will.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Petra, I'm gonna call you.